What's the difference between Western and Chinese skin types?
In France, it's more here is very more.
Natacha Tarascon, founder and CEO of DOUCEA, natural skincare for kids, co-created with them.
How did you go from mum to entrepreneur?
I decided to create the brand because I noticed something wrong with my daughter. My daughter has eczema, she's atopic skin, so she's scratching and have a lot of redness patches. More you use sun care, skin care and clean your face early, less you have issue when you're a teenager with pimples and everything.
Would you position yourself as a French company that is Chinese or a Chinese company in China?
It's a great question. Let's say that it's a very funny story. Our agency met the agency of Quinlivan, the wife of Jay Chou.
The Michael Jackson of China. What other strategies have you utilized? You've done a bit of live streaming. What's been your experience with offline here in China?
The problem of offline.
So apart from kids, what is one thing that we can all do every day in the morning in order to protect our skin if we're not someone that does moisturize or someone that does moisturize?
You need to understand that.
Congratulations, Panda Profits gang, we've made some progress. 81% of people that watch the podcast are not subscribed, down from 83%. Our goal is 75%. If you like this channel, please subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. The bigger the channel, the bigger the guests. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. Natacha, how did you go from mum to entrepreneur?
I arrived in a certain point of my life after 20 years working in the cosmetic industry. I decided to create the brand because I noticed something wrong with my daughter. So my daughter has eczema, she's atopic skin, so she's scratching and have a lot of redness patches. Of course, there is plenty of product, works very well. There is no doubt about it, but it's quite boring because it's a dermocosmetic, so more medical, more functional product. And after a few days, she refused to use it, So one day I went to Korea and Korean, they are very strong with a very gimmick and very nice packaging. So I saw packaging with a small bow, gold and pink. And I said, wow, I realize if I buy something like this, she will become crazy. So I bought, I clean it, I put her cream, a medical cream, close tightly, repack, and I offer to her, And this is the age, she's a very princess style and girly style, and she immediately adopts. And I talked to my husband, there is something missing because I work for dermocosmetic for almost 20 years. It's a very functional, very excellent product, good quality with a strong result, but the design is sometimes quite boring. So let's do something a little bit more fun, because parents need to trust the brand. So I decided to create something more attractive for kids.
I think it's a great story because you started small, right? You started within your network, right? You started with the family and you built, I take it then you built out from there. And then how did you then transition from building this product within your family to then going?
The funny thing is my daughter, she has a play date with a friend and my friend told me, and Elisa, she has no eczema anymore. What did you buy as a product? You say, I didn't buy anything new, just because she's using every day, So it's the same product, but she had the pleasure to use. She's become very autonomous, She opens, she uses by herself, she understands. So this is a very good point. So every time I go to Korea, I buy the product, I clean it, I put a cream. I say, okay, now maybe we can do a brand, So we start from zero and we create a brand. So, but the very funny things, I met a guy, and he have a creative agency, and he told me, how do you want to create your brand? I say, why we ask for adults? Adults, they don't know what they want, So I was a little bit frustrated when I was working. I work for skincare for kids, but I never saw any kids in my room. So, so I say, okay, now let's organize workshop, let's do workshop with kids. So we have more or less that 400 kids workshop, We interview them, we ask them, how do you want your brand? What kind of sensation, the fragrance, everything was tested with kids. And based on all the content, we decided to create DOUCEA.
And then how did you get into China that way? Because obviously you've got that 400 children case study, and then you've managed to then do this in China. And your model is really interesting because you're actually not primarily selling to China, right? You're actually selling outbound back to France.
Because I base in China, so we did workshop with a Chinese school, French school, international school, and something like this. So we can notice some difference, in terms of theme, of color, or sensation, texture. It's quite different. But anyway, so we formulate in France. So I mean, it's like the receive. The receive come from France, and once it's ready, the texture feel okay, and the result, and so. We send the formulation here in China, and we adapted. So we have one production in China for Chinese market who fits the needs of Chinese, and we have one formula and production in France for France and export. So it's more or less the same concept. Look and feel is the same, but in terms of texture ingredient, there is a tiny difference.
And when we talk about localization, you've done it, right? You've actually taken a French concept, you've made it Chinese as well. You've identified that maybe Chinese skin types or Chinese audiences are looking for something slightly different. So you've been able to create two businesses, which I think is a really great point for a lot of brands coming into China, because they just think, I'm just going to sell my product. Let's say I get this with some British companies in particular. They'll say, I'll just sell the Britishness of it. And it's actually, why not say it's made in China as well, which usually they are actually, the products are made in China, and then put it out to the mass market that way. So I think it's really, really interesting. My question for you would be, with the Chinese market right now, there's just tens of thousands of cosmetics brands, skincare brands. What's the difference between Western and Chinese skin types?
Based on what we notice, and the difference between my two production in France, in terms of texture, is more nourishing. Here is very more light, more water-based. It's because
they don't want oil, right?
They don't want to do oil. For example, we have almond oil in France. We don't have in China. So the main ingredient, the functional ingredient, are the same. For example, Madecasoside, it's an incredible ingredient. They are both the same, but this is the point. And in China, in terms of level of fragrance, it's much, much down. The mummy in China, they don't like the fragrances products. So we remove or we go 2 or 3 more degrees down. This is a really big change. Yeah.
So with your products, you would say they're less oil-based in China, but then for the Western market, it's
more nourishing.
More nourishing. Oily is not the right word. Nourishing would be the right. And that's true, because I dealt with a British cosmetics company here in China before, and we had that issue. We were trying to educate a Chinese audience that, yeah, it's a little bit oily, but it's not bad for you. But in the end, if we'd probably just produced the product here and made it more water-based, like you said, and used your model of, instead of trying to just push the product when the Chinese audience clearly doesn't want it, you've actually localized it more into a Chinese kind of product.
So we localize.
On from that question, actually, so there's hundreds, thousands of Chinese competitors that are trying to undercut you, offer discounts, and in a highly competitive market. How are you able to navigate that market and differentiate yourself from your competitors?
So we try first to be, as much as we can, very functional. I mean, we can see the results. You use the cream and you can see if you have rednesses after 1 or 2 days, we can notice, the change or something like this. Why? Because we are using high technology ingredient, and very, let's say, effective ingredients. We don't dilute, with cheap or very, like water-based or oily-based ingredients. So we can see the result. And also in terms of the story, we know it takes long because we explain the story. It's a mom, I'm a pharmacist, so this also gives a little bit credibility of the brands. They trust step by step, and we are recommended step by step. So we don't do any drastic discount or something like this. We really keep our philosophy to be the perfect product for the skin without compromising with, like a discount or something like this.
So do you position yourself as a French company that is Chinese, or you position yourself as a Chinese company in China?
It's a great question. Let's say that we are proudly made in China. To be honest, the factory here. I visit so many factories. I have so much experience, almost 12 years experience. There is a very excellent factory with great facilities and good labs. And there is, the made in China sometimes a little bit bad, image, but I can really tell you that the factory here is amazing. So I'm proudly made in China, but with a French twist. You know what I mean? With a French touch. So that's also what I think the moms and the parents like in our products,
There's an honesty there as well, because there's many Western brands that make their products in China. They're actually made in China, but they're saying that they're a British or French or German or American brand. And if they just said, look, we love Chinese manufacturing, we love the way it's made, the efficiency, the quality has improved in the last decade.
A lot.
So if they position themselves that way, it would increase sales. But they don't quite understand that.
Great.
On the sales side, particularly with e-commerce in China, how have you been able to grow that business? Because I know you mentioned in the beginning it was quite tough, right? Especially when you did live streaming and working with KOLs.
You need to understand that what we create with DOUCEA is quite unique, because usually I'm a French and I create my brand. So you start first in France, you grow up in France, and after 5-10 years, when you are break even and so you invest in China. We did a little bit the reverse because of the epidemic situation. So we start first in China with a production. So we start from zero. We have no brand awareness. We have no notoriety in China and also outside. When you arrive and you met a distributor, hey, we are number one sold in pharmacy in France. We can see on the TV. We have a TV show, blah, blah, blah. So you open, it's what I did before with many brands before. You open your files and you have so many nice information to share. So here, when I met a distributor and when I met a KOL or influencer, I have nothing to show them, except my story. So it was my first challenge, because the KOL look at me and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to sell your product. I trust you. I love your story. I love your product, but I will not take the risk to sell. We are talking about skincare, and we are talking about kids, which is the most difficult line to sell. I will not start, So I was really shocked, because, it's something that I couldn't imagine that someone refused to sell my product. I trust so much, because I'm using on myself, on my kids, my family, on my friends. So, and step by step, we met people who trust and help us to grow and.
So that's an interesting one, that you said you're using it on yourself. It's not just a skincare product for kids. It's the whole family, right? It's that family feel and
exactly.
And I think that was something you mentioned as well before we filmed the podcast, which was you did eventually get that KOL, right? You worked with. Do you want to mention who you worked with and how that came about?
It's a very funny story, and this is really helped a lot. Our agency met the agency of Quinlivan, so the wife of Jay Chou.
Jay Chou, yeah.
I am. So you pronounce better than me.
The Michael Jackson, I guess,
exactly.
of China.
Exactly. And I'm very tiny. I just launched a brand without any notoriety, brand something. But the agency really was very strong to explain that I'm a mom, 3 kids. I create my own brand in China, and I'm proudly sell in China, blah, blah, blah. And she really loved the story. And she said, okay, I can do. And she make a very great effort in terms of also, a quotation. So we afford to have her. So during 1 year, we was able to use a picture with her with our product. And she also have a short 30-second movie with our product. So this really opened a lot of doors. Then we go to see the distributor, say, hey, Kunming, she endorsed our product. So blah, blah, blah. So this one really the first step, big jump, And then we have the chance to work with a different KOL.
So it had that ripple effect.
Exactly.
Can you mention how much she actually generated, do you reckon, in sales?
She didn't really sell our product. We just use her image to
Brand
sell our
awareness,
product.
right.
Exactly. No.
And then it just grew out from there.
Exactly.
So you then did live streaming with other KOLs and built out the business that way. And as far as a strategy for brands, I think it's a great one that you need to have that face of the brand. Obviously, you're the face, but particularly with China, you probably need that local face, right? So you had that lady that can be almost like the face of the brand. I've said this to quite a few companies in the past, is you've got to have that Chinese celebrity that is not just a famous face, but behind the product. And it sounded like she was invested in the image, the vision of what was happening. And she's probably using it on the kids, maybe using it on Jay Chou as well, which is great. And what other strategies have you utilized as far as you've done a bit of live streaming? What's been your experience with offline and the expos here in China?
The problem of offline is because we launched during the epidemic, so we didn't get the chance. Every time we want to go to Tmall, we didn't get the chance to open in Tmall because of the situation going down and going down. And the problem of offline on the big chain, I'm talking about the big chain, the big chain, they say we will feature your product, we will distribute your product once you will be on Tmall, And at that time, we couldn't go to Tmall for all the reasons so we just say. So that's why we didn't approach the big chain yet, but we have a lot of small kids shop. We are also selling hotels, 5-star hotels, which is doing a very good job. We was not expecting such good job. So we have a lot of option, more kids shop, fashion shop, than really big, chain of kids store.
Because a lot of brands just rely on online. So I'll set up a Tmall, I'll set up a JD, but they don't also understand the offline side is the community side, because that community of families are visiting these places. And what's your thoughts on, if you're a brand, particularly a cosmetics or a skincare brand, getting into somewhere like Sephora, or maybe there's a cheaper Chinese kind of equivalent of Sephora now. That kind of strategy, do you think that's a good way to kickstart a product here in China?
So far, we still focus on the baby store and the kids store because usually it's a good environment for moms, because usually the kids' products are more sold in a baby store. I haven't seen yet in Sephora kids' product, but maybe in the future, let's see if there is any corner of kids or teenager. Why not? But so far, the moms still purchase on the baby on the Tmall baby store.
Well, I've just given them an idea. I think because I see many mums in Sephora and these other equivalents here in China, if they had just an aisle for, I think it would work and go down really well. So what's your plans now for the business? Where do you want to take this next? So you've obviously got a very successful digital strategy. Your offline side seems to be going really well as well. So where do you see the kind of next year roadmap taking you?
The roadmap in China, we are talking because we have also export markets. Because we sell in Singapore, in Hong Kong, we signed a contract in Taiwan and the Middle East. Because I used to live in Middle East for 7 years, it's a good place to sell the kids' product. So if we are talking only in China, the roadmap is we change our product again. Because we have a new China regulation for kids and it's become strong and stronger. So we need to have the golden logo. I will show you. And now it's mandatory to have this golden logo. So we start from scratch again. I reformulate all the product to get the golden logo. Thanks God we have. And I didn't do a mini big change because our product was already, fit into it. But we changed from zero. And now we have a new product because based on the mem feedback, we have a new product. For example, we used to have a shampoo and gel combined. Now we divide. We have body gel and hair gel. So all the feedback that we received during 2 or 3 years, create new product. We have a body care. At the beginning we don't have. So now we increase our portfolio. We change our portfolio according the mem request. And also now we are ready to go on Tmall.
The mum request, I think that's a great one because a lot of brands, they'll just push their products down people's throats, right? They just, look, we're not going to adapt, we're not going to evolve. And you've clearly listened to what your audience wants, right? And adapted in that way. And I think that's something that a lot of brands don't see. And a lot of people building businesses, is the most important person, it isn't you and the product. The most important person is the customer and the audience. So adapting to what they want because they're the ones that are going to buy and build this. Have you had challenges with educating your audience as well? Because even myself, when I think skincare for kids, I think too early. But actually, it's probably the other way. Actually, you should be washing your face and using moisturizer later on. I mean, I probably didn't use anything till my late teens, which is probably a bit too late. But how's that journey been with educating an audience on skincare for kids?
Great. We do a lot of workshop, and education, and sometimes I also invite by school to explain them. So the first, PowerPoint page, I show the Great Wall, and I ask the little Chinese, because usually it's mainly China market. I say, what is it? Say, oh, it's a Great Wall. And I say, why the Great Wall was built? To fight the enemy, to avoid the enemy go in, And I say, your skin is your Great Wall, This is the first step to protect yourself, against the enemies, because virus, bacteria, everyone's come inside, So you should to protect. How to do it? First of all, it's very simple. You need to clean your face daily because, we have a lot of pollution, toxin in the airs, so you need to remove every evening, because school, it's dirty and you have a lot of bacteria everywhere. So you need to first clean. And secondly, use a cream. Cream is exactly like a mortar, It's really create a protective film to avoid these things. And there is something that I read recently. In United States, they do a study. More you use sun care, skin care, and clean your face early, like you brush your teeth, less you have issue when you're a teenager with pimples and everything, because it gets used to, it's not like a girly stuff or something like this. It's mainly about boy, So it's good to pamper and to help them to use the cream, because usually, I don't know if you have kids, but when you try to apply sun cream, immediately they do like this, they hate. So if you train them at the beginning, it's something very common, for them.
So how young is too young? Because are you talking about 1 year old or 4 years old or?
It's really depending the skin condition. If the kids have eczema or something like this, you should to apply it from the day 0, But then the skin is improving. Let's say that when they start to be more autonomous, like brushing teeth or something like this, you can already help them. And if you see the DOUCEA product, it's very convenient. They don't need to unscrew or screw. They just need to open like this, to press and use the cream. So it's a very easy gesture for them. So just make something very easy. No need to put any pressure. And even my kids, is not every day say, hey, put your creams. And, now your skin is a little bit dry, and they feel, it's more dry in certain period. Yeah.
So apart from kids, what is one thing that we can all do every day in the morning just before we go out in order to just protect our skin? If we're not someone that does moisturize or someone that does moisturize, what's one thing that we can do?
It's really depend the age. For example, teenager, my son, we have a cleansing water, and I told him, don't wash your face in the morning too harsh. Just take a cleansing water just to remove, the oil during the night, and then it's over, because they don't want to use any cream or something like this. So I think cleaning is very important to remove all the dust, pollution, because we are, in dusty place. And yes, sun care is very important too, as much as possible, and during this period, hot period, sun care is very important.
So Natacha, where can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more about you, the products, the company?
You can contact me on LinkedIn, Natacha Tarascon, which is my name, or DOUCEA. If you are based in China, Jay Chou, WeChat, and if you are based outside France and worldwide, of course, Instagram, doucea.france, or even my name.
Thank you so much. I've learned so much, and I'm actually going to be using some of your products. You can see them over there. Absolutely
Please.
fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to
Because
chat.
it's kids and family, you know.
Just show everyone the. I like the
Sure.
one in the middle. Actually, it's quite an
This
interesting
is one of our best seller, you know, which is very funny. You just need to open, you need to press, and use minimum. And which is very nice is you have the
Lovely.
mirror.
Lovely.
Very kids friendly, you know, and family. But which is funny, we have a lot of mommy. They love the product too.
I think that's the interesting thing about the products. It isn't just about kids.
Yeah.
It's universal, right? It's for families. It's for older gentlemen like myself as well. You know, I could certainly see myself using
when
those
dad
products.
told me, oh, my wife, she bought for me Star Trek, Star Wars product. And I say, yeah, it's and we have something less, more dermo, because we sell in a hospital too. So it's something more medical one.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And if I missed any questions, guys, feel free to drop a comment in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.